Here we go.
Tell me when. We're the Vampires, Hollywood Vampires on Twitter, Periscope chat. And you sent some questions and we have some answers. They might not be the right ones, but they're answers.
How did you come up with the name of the band? That's Holly DeRocher 03.
The name of the band is from a drinking club that used to be in Los Angeles at the Rainbow. And it was, they called us the Hollywood Vampires because they only saw us at night, and all they saw us do was drink. The blood of the vine, not the blood of the vein. So we were the Hollywood Vampires, and we decided to pay tribute to the guys that were drank there every night and that died, that we would do their songs, and you know, all of our dead drunk friends.
You know, when I first heard about this, it reminded me of I read Groucho Marx was kind of had your place in I guess it was the Algonquin room or the Oak room at the Plaza, and they had the same kind of thing. It was probably maybe the intellect of the conversations might have been a little bit at a higher level, but it was the same tradition.
Well, and there was also Barrymore, Errol Flynn, W.C. Fields. They had a drinking club.
Take that back.
Hill Club. And those guys. And when Barrymore died, they dug him up. And they put his body in the chair, and they all took a drink to him. They all toasted him, and that gave us the idea for the, you know, Dead Drunk Friends.
Johnny, Enoch asks, how did Christopher Lee end up on the album?
Boy, what an honor it is to have Christopher on the album. Christopher and I worked together on a film called Sleepy Hollow, and instantly sort of got along. And I, you know, obviously I'd been a huge admirer of Christopher's, you know, long, extensive. I think his work. You know, I think he has the more film credits than anyone else in history. So we kept in touch all these years, dear friends, and it just, I don't know, it came to me one day. I thought we should have Christopher read something, you know. So I called him up, said, would you mind, you know, try this thing, you know. Well, Christopher, well, that sounds wonderful, Johnny. I would love to. You know. So we sent somebody over to record him, and he was, you know, he was brilliant, and I believe that's the last piece of work that Christopher did.
Joe, this comes from Johnny Depp Sexy One on Twitter. Which one of you has the largest collection of instruments, you or Johnny?
I thought it was going to go a different way.
I thought that was going a whole different
Me
place.
too. I thought that was a Hemingway Fitzgerald thing.
You know, I have quite a few guitars, but I think that the quality of what we would consider like classic instruments, I bet Johnny's is more. You know, he's probably got more like of the kind of thing that you would, you know, see like at the
Smithsonian.
Country Hall of Fame or the Smithsonian, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Is there any one guitar particularly that you're fondest of, Johnny?
If you're going to save one, which one would it be?
Boy, I mean, well, I gotta say the guitar that Duesenberg made for me is really got something very special, a very special tone. I asked them to do the impossible, which is to sort of mix, to be able to have a mix in one pickup, the mixture of a sort of a telly, and then the front position to have it more like a P90, you know, like in the TV specials, and so that's really the main one. But the one that's I think most important to me is the guitar that I've scraped and you know, up dough for when I was about 17, and it's a '56 Telly, and it's still my best friend.
This comes from Morgan Lane. Alice, are there any anecdotes that stand out from the nights with the original Vampires in the 70s? Any moment?
Every night was a costume party for Keith Moon. I mean, you know, we would sit there and wait to see what he was going to wear. You know, one night he'd be the Queen of England. you know. But I'm not just talking about a little bit, full
A
out,
little bit.
you know, with the big dress, you know, and this wave, you know. And the next night he would come as Adolf Hitler in a full costume in a sidecar with a guy driving
Come
him.
on.
I'm
The
not kidding
sidecar
you.
too?
I was there.
And
Okay.
one night I went back to my house and opened the door, and there's Keith Moon in a full French maid's outfit. And he said, "Oh, Mr. Cooper, I've done the whole room, and I have dusted everything, and it's." I said, "Yeah, we had to keep reminding ourselves this is the greatest drummer of all time. Just keep telling yourself he's the greatest drummer of all time." So most of the anecdotes revolved around Keith Moon because he was the court jester. He was basically the court jester.
Joe, will the Hollywood Vampires be having a world tour? Asked Jerry Boo.
Well, I think that we've just been kind of taking it literally day by day. I mean, we got, as far as I know, this gig was offered to us in Rio at the festival, you know, which they do every year, and then we felt to make it really be as good as it could be, do a couple of warm-up dates in a small club. I mean, it really is the best way to do it. And fortunately, we were able to organize that. I mean, due to our incredible manager here, Mr. Shep, and you know, pulling that together. I mean, the whole thing just at this level, pulling everybody together schedule-wise had to be like one of the most intense things. I mean, using every bit of skill that you have. And but anyway, doing those 2 dates, you know, here in the hometown of the I mean, you know, literally two storefronts down from the Rainbow. There's a lot of connection there. And anyway, doing those dates, and then doing the Rio date. And we're hoping, and as we speak, we get phone calls, and I just found out we've got something brewing next November. I don't know if I can say it yet, but yeah, I think I'm speaking for the three of us that we can pull it together to do more dates. You know.
Definitely.
I love this question from SG Harini. What do you think John Lennon or Keith Moon would say about the album?
Well, John would say Paul would do it better. John would say, "Oh, it's great, man, but Paul would have done it better," and which is true. Even though Paul's on one of the songs, John was. You know, the funny thing about these two was if you said something about John to Paul, Paul would get up and walk away. If you said something about Paul to John, he might take a swing at you. They were allowed to argue all day at each other, but you weren't allowed to talk about the other guy because they were fierce friends about that. You know, they were only allowed to be at each other's throat. You know, I mean, I think they would really but I think that if they would be here playing is what it would be. I mean, they would be on stage going, "You're not doing this album without me. You're not doing this show without me." Those guys love to be on stage. They love being on albums. I mean, that's what they live for.
This is from UK Smith 2020. You guys have the dream band now. What would be your dream venue for you guys to play in? Is there a dream, Joe?
Any place with at least 10 people in the front row. I don't know. We just love to. This is just a dream, you know, for us to be playing together, and with the quality and the experience of all of us, you know, that we've played. I mean, Johnny. I think the biggest surprise is that Johnny's probably one of the best guitar players that I know. I mean, no doubt. I mean, I'm telling you, he just, when I mentioned to people that, you know, first after that I very rarely mention that, you know, that I know him and we're buddies and stuff, but, you know, the next thing is like, you know, he loves music, he loves guitars, he's a great guitar player, and, you know, if you don't believe me, watch Chocolat. That's really him playing. and he's doing stuff that I only dream about doing.
Wow. That's insanity. That proves that I'm actually in a dream somehow, because I've got one of the two most influential guitarists that, I mean, there was Keith and there was Joe, and sort of more Joe because his style, when I was a kid, there was a style that where he'd just bend a note to where it was almost there, and I thought that's really it, man. It was so expressive. So for me to hear Joe talk about my playing is madness. I mean,
So really, the answer to that question is any place that's got $100, we'll play.
yeah,
That's it.
Or
$33 a piece.
or 50.
That's it.
And here's a question I think I know the answer to. It comes from Doug World. What song was the most fun to record? Might have Paul McCartney in the answers.
That was
That was something, us standing there in a little room at Johnny's house, running over songs, blah, 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 going through things, and Sir Paul walks in and sits down at the piano, like, okay guys, let's go, and starts playing piano, and we start jumping in on it, and we took 5 cuts of it live, and it was done.
This was live.
Live
We're
in the
talking
studio.
About literally a
No
small
overdubs.
room, people, elbows, literally touching. It isn't like like a big room, with like he's in this box and he's in that box, and live in the studio as if it was him recording back in 1963.
I got McCartney sweat on me.
Yeah.
I went,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
One of my fondest memories that I know, I mean, is seared onto my brain, and I would take, with me until I turn into smoke, is looking over at Alice as we're doing the song, and Paul's playing the piano and singing. I looked over at Alice, and he goes. I was like, then I looked over at Joe, and Joe just playing, looks up at me, and goes. And I'm doing the same thing. We're all like
There's 3 of us.
dumbstruck,
It was like talk about an ego leveler. I mean, we all have our places in our in our fields, but Paul in the room, all of a sudden it's like Sir Paul, and for us it was a magic moment.
And our last question
3
for
and a half
today
moments.
from Camellia. Your album came out today, The Hollywood Vampires. Why did you choose a book for the cover?
I like the idea of it being an old record of the Hollywood Vampires that somebody just dug up and found. And it was sort of the history of the Hollywood Vampires, and you haven't even opened it yet. Just the cover alone tells you what's inside. There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of memories, a lot of things that are going on, and the mystery of it. Who are they? What are they? How'd they get to that? It just had that nice old feeling, and that's what the music has. It's got that nice, warm rock and roll feeling that the 60s and 70s had. That's kind of missing a little bit today. There was this sort of comfortable leather feeling to the whole thing, and then burned into it is the Hollywood Vampires and sort of a dirty gold.
Yeah.
So it had everything that we really wanted out of it.
It couldn't be a more perfect cover.
Yeah.
To describe that.
It really does feel like, as Alice said, you're opening up a book of
Secrets
not
or
just
something.
history,
Legend.
but memories.
It's legend.
And legend, yeah.
I mean, I came along at another time. I wasn't there in the when Alice was there when the original thing was going on, but I was hanging out there off and on through the 80s, 80 to 85, and it was in doing interviews with Alice, learning a lot about like the vibe. I'm just really picking up on the vibe of what it must have been like. And in the 80s, people would say, well, that's where Jimmy would sit, that's where Alice would sit, that's where Keith would sit, that's where, but the and of all the things that have changed over the years, you know, in the music business and all over the places, it seemed to have the same. There was a whole new gang of musicians in there, you know, doing what they were doing, and you know, hey, the bottles of Jack Daniels looked exactly the same as they did back in 1967 or 68, 69, and and so at least I got a taste of what was going on then, you know, and you know, and it was still, you know, who could pick up the best looking waitress? You know, I ended up in the hills many mornings turning over. First you're praying that there are breasts on the person you're with, and then second that, you know,
That they're female.
I go for blondes, and so, you know, you know, but yeah, that was. It still had the same vibe with all the other stuff changing. It's amazing that it was still.
It still feels like
felt
the
same.
70s when you walk in there.
Yeah.
It still has that 70s thing. Hey, you know what? We love Twitter, love Periscopes, but we love rehearsal even more, don't we? We just love rehersal.
I do.
Yeah, oh
I
yeah,
love
it's one of my
rehearsal.
favorite things. So we gotta go. Back to rehearsal.